I have been putting my thoughts together over this simple subject of the parable. And over time, it hasn't been so clear to me than what it is today, as my understanding about this subject has gradually expanded, and I could see more insight about the story of the parable. Now, the parable are meant of two talents. It's almost the same parable. The parable of the man with two talents are almost the same parable of the boy with the two bread and two loaves of fish. And this parable are still very relevant today. Understand that this same parable, I'm not coming from a religious perspective, but I'm coming from a naturalistic perspective. Although the same subject is being narrated and been used on different religion platform to be able to drive messages home, but that is not where I'm coming from. That's something that has been greatly expanded about this parable of a talent, and that with the boy with two loaves of bread and that of fishes. So from my point of view and the way my mind has been able to interpret this, it's in a different context in terms of life and business, and whether you are in the scope of you are a deep religious person or whatever you want to, wherever you stand in life in terms of where you're going and what you want to accomplish, that this parable are still relevant today. And one thing that I have always reminded myself every day, it's one thing, is develop or use what you have and where you are to grow while you are aspiring into a future to where you want to be. With my CFO, one of a couple of months ago, when we were having a debate about a company's finance and the next level of finance that we wanted to raise. And I brought up a simple subject because the CFO I was talking with was a new hire I was about bringing into the company. And I said something specifically, and it's something that I tell everybody I partner with or everybody that work in terms of partnership with me, that wherever we are, we will endeavor to use what we have to where we are going. For example, my understanding about finance is this. There are people that I've come to meet and I've come to know that when they have $100, they spend $101. And when they have and look for $200, and when they have $200, they spend $201 and look for $300. But my mentality about finance has always been that one, we will develop with what we have, and with what we have, we will use that to expand to where we want to go. And as we grow, we ask for more should we need to. That's called capacity building. And I told her clearly that I don't want to build a company that is going to be indebted, but I want to build a company that is sustainable, that is able to grow simultaneously with assets, cash, and the people around the business and the employee and everybody prosper alongside, not an indebted company. And I love one thing that she mentioned as well. She paid attention and she listened to so in depth. And she said to me that I think this is one thing I love about your vision and the direction you want to go, because, and she said, I've worked with a lot of CEO that are always looking for where is the next money rather than looking for productivity. And when they have the money, before you know it, the money is gone and the company is indebted. And by the time they try to propose a mechanism to which the CEO and the owners can be able to narrow down in terms of their expectation with constant raising of money, they always end up in the same cycle. And she said something to me, that is the kind of, you are the kind of person I want to work with and the kind of company I want to be, because you understood a simple principle about money. Now, why do I bring this up? Now, don't get me wrong when I use that subject. Okay, understand that business debt, that's what you call long-term debt and short-term debt in terms of business financing and whatever you want to do. We use debt in our company as well, for primarily for expansion and for relevant things that we want to accomplish, but not in the other way around. Okay. So now, depending on what a CEO or a business owner sees and the reason why they have to constantly raise money, always come with one exposure. You get constantly being diluted, and at the same time, if there's no proper structure in the business in terms of the exit, the entry, and the exit foundation contracts in the business, can actually lead to that CEO or those owners to eventually be housed out of the business. So that is the downside with constantly raising money without creating more foundational productivity in terms of sales and growth, so that the money that the business earn can be reinvested into the business for sustainable growth. That is the point I'm coming from. Then you also have people who understood that it does not matter where they are, as long as they have what they need at that point. The rest they just doesn't care about what will be the outcome and long-term outcome. And most people have actually built a lot of businesses whereby they just keep cashing out of the business and leaving the business dead, brain dead, and nothing really happens. So it benefits them, but not the people or the investors or the partners that work with them, because on the long run, the business, they can abandon the business and head somewhere else. But the downside is that you cannot just abandon the company and head somewhere else. You're also moving along with debt. The parable of the talent exposes two different kind of individual and personality. That we have around us. So one personality is the one that takes, and the other personality is the one that keeps and observes whatever they have. Now, the two use whatever they were given as an entitlement, the way they were supposed to use them. The other one has to return it back to the giver, which is the landlord or the master, return back the 2 talent that he was given, or the 200 talent or 100 talent he was given, back the same way. In a normal sense, we call the second guy dishonest, or somebody who did not use what he was given. No, that is not exactly true from my perspective. The person is not dishonest. He is actually the best than the other person that uses what he was given. So you may ask me a question and say, how come is that the best? So he is also the second person now that uses what he was given, was a risk taker. That means he believed in taking risk, and they used what they had. But in their both different comfort zone, because every individual, every one of these people that were given something had their comfort, and they used whatever they had. It had their comfort zone. The reason why the reason why the other one probably kept the money that he was given must be because he lacked a plan or a vision on how he's going to use the money, and or make money out of that. Okay. So knowing that he doesn't have a plan on how he's going to use the money, so he decided to keep the money. Now the second person had a plan on how he is going to use the money beforehand. And if we had to calibrate backward, before the master probably gave them the talent or the money, there must be something that has happened at the back doors before that period. So now the question now arises, what if the other guy that kept the money and returned it back to the master the same way he was given, used the money and he lost the money? The message in the parable would have not been able to materialize. The actual message in the parable will have not been able to materialize if he lost the money. Okay. Knowing the master too well is that, one, he's either going to get fired. Two, is either going to be called a dishonest person. And three, maybe he would have never had another opportunity whereby something of that value would have been given to him. Now to the guy that has 2 bread and 2 fishes. And somebody came to him and they said, can you give us what we have, because nobody else have it right now, and we want to, can you give us? What if the guy with the 2 bread and 2 fishes was presented an opportunity of a test whereby life tests you about your patience, your integrity, and your ability to endure pain? In the true sense of event, what if the guy said, no, I only had just 2, and and if you look around, there's probably nobody that has anything left, but I only had just 2. So these 2, I need to keep it for me until the other big players are able to have something available in the market, so I can be able to replace these 2 later on. So one, the boy was playing a risk and taking a risk, and number 2, the guy, the boy as well, had a strong pain tolerance and long-term vision of what he had at that point. So when you look at the first parable, it reflects something. One was somebody who was careful about life. The second was somebody who was careful but was a risk taker. And you have the boy with the 2 bread and the fish as a risk taker as well. And mind you, this exposes the 2 different personalities that we have among us, not only from the perspective of where that passage was written, but to even today that we exist. Let's not go into what happened after the guy with the 2 with the bread, and what happened with the guy that was given the talent. Let's not go into the miracles that happened afterward, which I believe that a lot of people already figured out. I brought up this subject because they are very close to home. I have spent a decade now in the business world, and I have worked with different people, and I've listened to different individuals from all walks of life. This characteristic that we just presented in the initial discussion present itself till today. The size to which we can grow is predominantly to the amount of pain we are willing to tolerate. And to develop pain threshold, you must understand the risk and the areas of risk that you're willing to take, or the amount of pain that you're willing to tolerate. Not giving what you have isn't laziness. Holding back isn't laziness as such, but a risk as well. Not doing that which you think you should have done is not laziness or selfishness. It's as a result of the amount of pain that you can tolerate. It means a comfort zone. But here are the things that happen when you are so when you are so barricaded by your comfort zone that you just cannot see the ability from where you are. What will happen is that the miracle will not happen, or the increase will not happen. Because when you don't use what you have, miracles don't happen, and increase don't happen. I read a quote long ago that says, God gift to me is my potential, and my gift to God is what I do with them. The progress humanity has made today has been collaborative. And until we identify that what we have is a seed, we will hold them to ourselves. And secondly, is developing the ability to see possibility wherever you are and whatever you do. To see with wherever you are and whatever you do and whatever you have in your hands left. Great companies and great people today that you see were just a seed. They were just a seed that has been developed into the ground over and over and over again until they became great and became something that people admire. And they became a miracle to somebody else, to themselves, and to somebody. They became an increase, not only by the seed, the little that they started, the unidentified and rejected places that they all started. But they started anyway. They got discovered anyway. They keep moving anyway. They just keep doing what they needed to do anyway until that little effort compounded and start paying off. Lastly, I've come to understand that life isn't all about comfort, but it's always about the level of pain that we can tolerate and to what level, to which risk that we can take. But however, wherever we are and wherever we stand, is understanding that it wasn't just about comfort, but it's the risk and us having that ability to leap into the void, into the unknown. The pain you take is because the pain you take today is because you want to create a miracle for someone else tomorrow. When you have this understanding, then the pain will be worth it. That the pain that you take today is because you want to create a miracle for someone else.